we provide the solution to the inside sales services for organizations. I mean, to put it simply, that could be anything from top of the funnel lead generation, qualified leads, all the way through the full account management, upsell, cross-sell opportunities, really the full suite of services. We dedicate our teams for our client partners.
Welcome to Business Ninjas, brought to you by WriteForMe, where you'll hear from business leaders who are out there growing their business and slaying it every day. Learn from the masters. Let's get started.
Hey everybody, this is Max Tidman from WriteForMe, and you're listening to another episode of the Business Ninjas podcast, where we meet the experts who are making things happen and scaling their businesses. And today we're talking about Salelytics. Joining us from the Salelytics team is AJ Olander, who is the Chief Strategy Officer at Salelytics, and Ashley Lilge, who is the Business Development Manager at Salelytics. Thank you both so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Max.
Awesome. So Salelytics. Salelytics is in the sales as a service space. The company's been around for a long time, since 1988. So I'm definitely excited to dive into what's been going on in Salelytics, how things have evolved, and also how you see the business evolving in the future. But before we jump into the organization, our community at Business Ninjas is built of entrepreneurs, executives, people like Ashley who are in sales and marketing. We have leadership there. So Ashley and AJ, I'll start with you, AJ. I'd love it if you can tell our community a little bit about yourself and your background, maybe some of the things you're focused on, and then same thing for Ashley.
Yeah, thanks, Max. So I've been with the firm for, it'll be 18 years this summer. Every time I say that out loud, it's a little baffling. I frankly stumbled into the space, fresh out of school, trying to figure out what my professional career journey was going to look like, and there's just a ton to offer. So as we get into that, I'll tell some of the journey and the roles that I played. Today, as the Chief Strategy Officer for the firm, I have responsibility for our marketing. We're doing a relatively new rebrand to the name Salelytics, so there's a lot of effort and content into those. And then I support our sales team and our operations team to bring on new prospective customers and work on the solutions that we create for existing.
So responsible for marketing, sales, operations, got a lot of stuff on your belt. What about you, Ashley? What are you working on?
Absolutely. So I also have an interesting journey coming over to here. I've been with the organization for just under 10 years now. It started as a frontline associate in our operations for a client partner, and worked into the direct sales team for Salelytics, and now help oversee efforts within the marketing space within AJ's group.
It was a classic Ashley, classic undersell. Literally everything that we do from a sales ops and marketing perspective has her name and fingers all over it. But through your operational leadership team who is listening will appreciate that. And it really, but Ashley's where it all comes together at the answer.
I love it. It's always great to see how, the people like yourself, been there for over a decade, 28 years combined between the two of you at an organization. I'm sure there's a lot of reasons why you're there, and a lot of reasons why you continue to grow and find new positions within the organization. And since the company's been around since 1988, almost 34 years, I'd love to understand a little around like the origin story. Like how did the company start? Love to just kind of get an idea of that, and then we can talk about maybe what's going on today.
Yeah, I can take that one, Max. So in the late 80s, the firm was founded by a Kimberly-Clark executive. So back in that time frame, we're headquartered today in Appleton, Wisconsin. Just down the street is Neenah, Wisconsin, which used to be the founding origin point of Kimberly-Clark. He quasi-retired from the consumer packaged goods space and realized that there was a gap of how companies, specifically consumer products manufacturers, were doing direct outreach to small retailers, convenience stores, things of that nature that wasn't getting covered by the broker model. So he formed the firm It was dedicated, wrangled up some friends and acquaintances in that space, and off he went. Roughly 10 years later, we hired an executive from J&J. We branched out into healthcare and started to accumulate medical device and pharmaceutical manufacturer partners as clients. And then the next big change was really in the early 2000s. So during that whole runway, the firm was known as Telmark, was the founding name. It was acquired by West Corporation, who was a large BPO player out of Omaha, Nebraska. And they were doing predominantly inbound consumer transactional care type work. They were getting a lot of demand from Fortune 100 clients to start to do new outbound business to business sales. So as they were going through the valuation of do they build it, do they buy it, they found our firm in Wisconsin, they purchased us, and then we started to go through a rebranding of the various names of West. So West Business Services, West Revenue Generation Services, those all came in the next 10 years or so. And then kind of the culmination to where we are today, West is a publicly traded company in 2017, was taken private by a private equity firm out of New York, Apollo Global Management. They started to spin off a variety of the holding companies that were underneath West Corp, and that included us. So we came all the way back to where we started, independent, privately held, outsourced sales company, and we rebranded to Salelytics during that time frame.
And there's more rebranding going on, it sounds like, too.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about that here in a second. Just to give the idea of, okay, what is an outsourced B2B sales firm? I don't mean to put you on the spot, AJ, or maybe this is for Ashley too, being on the sales side, but I know I've imagined pitching some ideas on Shark Tank, or maybe even being a shark myself. So I'd love it if, again, either of you, whoever wants to kind of raise their hand and take the bull by the reins here, can you give me Salelytics elevator pitch? What problem does Salelytics solve?
You want to give it a go? You want me to take it?
I mean, I will keep it very simple. I think you can provide a lot of additional color to that, but we provide the solution to the inside sales services for organizations. I mean, to put it simply, that could be anything from top of the funnel lead generation, qualified leads, all the way through the full account management, upsell, cross-sell opportunities, really the full suite of services. We dedicate our teams for our client partners.
AJ, anything you want to add? How did Ashley do?
That was great. I liked it.
So what are some of the verticals? I heard you started in healthcare. There's a focus potentially on pharma as the company was growing and evolving over time. Is there a specific vertical, that you service the most, or or is there a general sense of, hey, we want to kind of pivot and focus on these industries moving forward?
Yeah, so there's three main categories that we kind of split the client base into. Today we service about 70 different unique partners. About 2/3 of them sit in either consumer packaged goods manufacturers or healthcare, which is medical device or pharmaceutical manufacturers. So they're clients who are making something, and then it's a business-to-business motion to get them out into the marketplace. The consumer packaged goods world, obviously that's selling to retail, to wholesale, to convenience store, any way that they're helping to transition that. So products that you and I buy every single day, it's a business-to-business sale to get that from the manufacturer to the retailer before we can start to pull things off the shelf.
Gotcha.
In your space, it gets a little bit more complicated. There's a lot of different end call points that we're servicing our clients with. And a lot of them can be into physicians or hospitals or surgery centers. We do a lot in the veterinary space, even these adjacent markets like chiropractic, depending upon what the specific manufacturer is looking for. But it's all designed as an extension of the sale. And then we have kind of mass outreach into the broader, we'll refer to it as B2B or SMB type markets. So these are a lot of Fortune 100 companies who have a generalized product offering. So these are logistics providers that everybody would know the name of, telecommunications providers, travel and hospitality companies, where they set huge swarms of small to mid-size businesses that are part of their go-to-market strategy. And then it lends itself to an inside sales model in order to get small values on individual users. So it becomes a bit of a numbers game where you need to do outreach at scale, and we help them plug in that way.
Gotcha. So pretty broad ideal customer. Seems like there's kind of an agnostic almost approach. And, based on the size of the company, I assume some of these small to medium-sized businesses, maybe before we get up into enterprise, already have, sales teams built out internally. What if they have an inside sales team? What makes them as a good fit company?
Yeah, we work with both. It's probably 50-50. Half the partners that we have no inside sales presence, and we plug in and serve that need based on how they're doing customer segmentation or whatever their product portfolio is, lends itself to that. The other half already have something, and we're a complement by kind of picking swim lanes and then dividing up resources as best to meet the client needs. Sometimes that's portions of the sales cycle. You heard Ashley refer to different offerings we have. We can do top of the funnel type work, pass it over to our teams, or our clients' inside team. They'll carry through mid steps in the process. We can also pick it up on the back end and do administrative or revenue pull through type of work. So it's all about optimizing, and it's customized is the word that we use all the time. Like, these are highly customized models. We do have kind of core offerings, but in this space, mid-market and enterprise customers are all unique, and we can adapt to whatever they're looking for.
So it sounds like it's almost a plug and play versus putting yourself in a specific box or positions that your team focuses in on. And since you've been around since 1988, the company wouldn't be here if it wasn't successful. So why would a customer go with Salelytics over the competition? What is some of that secret sauce at Salelytics right now?
Yeah, I can start. So I was just talking to somebody about this the other day, and my tag on, I guess, to Ashley's elevator pitch is how I think we fit uniquely in the space, is that we have a unique blend, not only with our talent and our process, but also with the way that we approach technology integrated into the offering. So we buy vended solutions from kind of best-in-class suppliers, and then we can integrate them seamlessly with homegrown solutions from our development team. So we custom make platforms for coaching that we provide and extend to our team members and our clients. We have a patented tool called Super Associate that provides real-time keyword phrase spotting and scoring right on the associate's desktop. So these are all things that we've seen not match the marketplace. And then we'll pair them with vended solutions, blend it all together in our secret sauce, and it becomes a package deal to the client. So where they've thought about this and then they've really dug in to understand the nuances to build something and of best class, they realize that it's very complicated. Like, it's either going to be expensive, going to be time consuming, or both of them. And then it's sort of up to you, right? You can go down the journey that we did, but we've been perfecting it for decades, or you can find a partner like us, and then plug into it relatively.
So I heard there's a bit of custom software that you've built. That's specifically for what exactly? That's for your customers to leverage, that for your own teams to leverage? I just want to make sure I understand what that technology actually is.
Yeah, it's really for our people. So our sales associates, we've made quite a few investments in order to help them do their job better. So really at the core of it for us, it's designed to support our people. The benefit that our client gets is that we're finding ways to optimize that. And we're helping them with, what's really the grind of the sales effort every single day, by equipping them with these tools, either purchased or homegrown.
What about for your clients? Are you developing any technologies or software for them, or is the majority of the business just focused on, the sales making sure that the sales teams have the amount of resources they need to be successful?
Yeah, it's more the latter. But since we do have development resources in-house, we absolutely are supporting clients with custom development. So one recent example, we do a fair amount of work in the patient-centric space. So it's a fairly unique solution where patients are calling in either for medical device or pharmaceutical to try and educate themselves to see if they qualify for the journey. So the end state of this is ultimately meeting with a physician, meeting with a surgeon, meeting with somebody who could implant the device. And that front end process, there's a lot of inbound direct to consumer marketing traffic that shows up. And we've built custom portals to organize that and support it. But again, for us, it's not something that we're outselling. That's not our core competency. So if that's all you need, we can give you some recommendations. If you're looking to intertwine it with the human capital solution to try and best manage those processes and monetize it, that's where we support, and that's where we're doing it directly.
Gotcha. That's really helpful. I just wanted to make sure I understood what the focus is. And it does sound like what you have for this custom portal for healthcare, maybe there's a lot of hoops probably to jump through as well with HIPAA and customer data. So that's a whole different probably topic to discuss.
Yeah. We'll save that for like our 2.0 podcast.
Yeah. So Ashley, what are you hearing on the sales front? Like, what are some of the biggest challenges that your customers are facing right now, and how are you solving that for them?
I think it's really evolved. When we went through the pandemic, it was a big push to put a lot of the field sellers into an inside sales virtual position. And they quickly realized that that was not a seamless transition. It's a totally different environment, a totally different selling point. And they really needed to lean on a company such as us to help them with that. Whether, to AJ's point, whether it was we did some sort of the sales process and then tossed it over the fence for their field team to bring to closure or whatever that may entail. But really, since that has evolved, it's turned into realizing that standing up this type of a sales team as the marketplace continues to change is not easy. It's not simple. There's a lot involved to it. AJ mentioned earlier that there's a lot of systems involved in training and the ongoing resources and human capital that all is put behind it. And in this case, they can hand it off to a group that's been doing it for years and really not have to worry about it from there. We take it on as a dedicated piece of our business, and really even the frontline sellers really become part of that organization and that culture. And I think that's been a huge turning point since the beginning of COVID and the onset of that.
Definitely agree. I was COVID kind of turned into, we're all turned into remote sellers at the end of the day, right? We had no choice. Business had to continue. We all had to go remote, and scaling is tough to do from a remote perspective. And it sounds like you're making that a little bit more simple for businesses as we still kind of live in a remote world. Maybe 50%, I think 50% of businesses are back in office, but still, it's not a simple thing at the end of the day. There's a lot that has to go into it. So what about from like your business perspective? How are you guys scaling? Maybe this is a question for AJ. Like, what is the biggest challenge you are facing right now as a business?
Yeah, I mean, it's evolving quite a bit. So, one of the ways that we're solving for the scale is we're diversifying, to your point, Max. So, a little bit more of a history lesson and then into the evolution. Prior to COVID, we were 100% brick and mortar. So we had operating sites throughout the US. Everybody came into an office every single day, sat down in their workspace, and then performed the function to support their client. We sent everybody home in March of 2020. And today, that's still where most people sit. So we broadened the hiring markets that we're looking for talent in. The largest states that we employ today are Wisconsin, number 1, Texas, number 2, Georgia number 3. We didn't have Georgia employees prior to 2020. Uh, so we're trying to find a space in where the talent that can perform this function exists, is receptive to the role and the job, and then we can scale it. So what used to be kind of these tight little pockets located around brick and mortar facilities are now, whole states or pockets of the country. And the hardest part of that was just making sure that we could align with client expectations. I mean, to us, it became pretty obvious pretty quickly that would work, and you could find the right people and good talent if you just opened up the gates a little bit. But it was, it's a difficult evolution for some people to make. So that management of the client expectations was probably the toughest part along the journey. But now, almost 3 years out, I think we've pretty well made it there with everybody.
Makes sense. Yeah. The ability to scale is what we hear a lot, right? That's a big challenge that most customers have, right? It's okay, scaling or not scaling, right? How do we, be able, but for you, it's a lot different, right? You service your customers from a people perspective. So scaling is definitely going to be probably a continuous conversation for you guys about how you guys can grow the business.
Yeah, we've got partners of all sizes. So we have some client accounts where we have 5 dedicated resources supporting them, and we have other accounts where we have hundreds of people supporting them based on what.
So we talked a little bit earlier, or you mentioned it, I guess, about a rebrand. There's been a lot of rebranding, and you've seen a lot of it probably over the last 18 years of the organization, AJ. So tell me, I guess, a little about like what's your strategy for educating the prospective customers? How is marketing playing a role in helping Salelytics stand out?
Yeah, it's been interesting and fun and challenging, kind of all wrapped together. So while we existed for most of my tenure prior to the Salelytics rebrand, I would say we didn't really have any autonomy to handle marketing, brand awareness, outreach, aside from the sales force. So the direct sales force trying to communicate with prospects. We were a subsidiary of Westcor. We were 6 layers down on the homepage to even get to our content. And we've joked multiple times, like, we built $100 million company without a website. Like, it's crazy. So there's a lot of learning that occurred as we broke off and started to rebrand. We built our own website, which seemed like a big deal at the time. We continue to iterate that, and then managing the social presence. So in our space, the buyers of our service are usually vice presidential or above. In the sales or marketing organization are the contacts that ultimately work and partner with us. And we know that they hang out on LinkedIn, right? There's the platform. So Ashley, to her credit, took it upon herself to, 1, create her LinkedIn page, and then 2, start managing the posting strategy and the content with it, because we felt like that was the obvious spot where, our prospective customers and buyers were getting information from.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. So today, is there a continued focus on social? Is there a focus on strategic partnerships? Is there a focus on channel partnerships? Love to kind of understand, like, where can people get an idea of okay, how can I partner up with them they partnered up with this company, so this makes sense for me to actually have a conversation with Salelytics.
Yeah, so we are 100% on board with partnerships. So we have a handful of software partners that we're purchasing the vended solution from today. So these are suppliers like SalesLoft or ZoomInfo, where we have obvious overlap in the customer base, right? They have a solution that works for the buyer. We have a partnership, and we're consuming their software and their products to manage part of our workflow, support our team, and then we have an offering that they don't in most cases. So lots of times, people are coming into this trying to figure out what it is they need, and then there's overlap. So we love those strategic partnerships. We found that they work very well to pair together and make sure that, all these buyers out in the marketplace, have an easy pathway to interconnect, whether it's kind of a bundled solution like ours, interconnected to human capital or software, and we can transition kind of easily through that. And then the whole branding piece, for sure, like it's ongoing and it's a whole evolution. The social, we've kind of broken into a recruiting component and a people component. So a lot of the ways that we're talking about the culture of the company, what it's like to work at the company, what you can expect day in the life. We're using Facebook, Instagram, the YouTube channel in order to educate, and then LinkedIn really become our platform for doing outreach and prospecting, where we're providing ads. We're trying to do a more targeted influencer campaign with the executives of the organization to make sure that they're using their voice and getting it out. And then, the grind of the daily content strategy organically from the page, which Ashley and the marketing team, carried that torch for years.
I got to ask though, is there a Salelytics background there too? Like using your own inside teams to grow top of funnel as well?
Yeah, we call it drink your own Kool-Aid, right? So one of the solutions that we had out in the marketplace for years is called Team Sell. So I was describing it before. It's blending the process of an inside seller with what's historically been a field sales or in-market resource. We do that today. So we have our own that are doing top of the funnel type work, outreach to prospective buyers, managing content follow-up from the LinkedIn platform. And after we've gone through discovery, we will connect it to our executive sales team, and these are resources scattered throughout the country, who will ultimately work on solution creation with our operations team, and then eventually work through contract and onboarding when we found the right pairing. So, yeah, we drink our own Kool-Aid.
Drink your own Kool-Aid, better than eat your own dog food. I always hated that. I like drink your own champagne, right? Hey, right.
There you go. We should up that.
Yeah, you're right. A little bit better than the Kool-Aid. Tastes a little bit better, maybe. So what's something, this is a question for both of you. I'll pose this both to Ashley and you, AJ. What's something that, you want to be celebrating a year from now? Like it could be something personal. It could be something, Ashley being business development. If there was something, a metric that you need to hit. Love to understand what that is, and same thing for you, AJ.
Absolutely. So that was one of the questions that really brought a smile to my face, because I see the marketing team evolving day in and day out and really coming up with creative content. I mean, we even have a TikTok channel now. And if you would have asked even, a year ago, if we would have ever gone down that path, I would have probably laughed. But it provides a lot of great sales tips and still has some humor built into it. And I really think there's a lot of value in how this team is coming together and providing this creative content that reaches not only, our buying group and our decision makers, but also, from the talent perspective and the recruiting perspective. So really a year from now, I'd love to see our LinkedIn page grow. I'd love to see more of our content pushed into that channel and see what we can really do with that. Tessa, one of our marketing managers, does some great blog content. I would love to see several more blogs between now and next year when we chat again, and more sales chat. We actually have our own podcast, and AJ has been featured on it many times, and we really talk a lot about not only our history and where we've been and where we've come from, but where we're going. And I would love to see more episodes within that, whether it be with our vendors, our clients, more of our internal staff, but really see that take off.
What about you, AJ? That's great, Ashley.
Yeah, I love that answer. I'll double down on that. So one of the challenges that we've had, and why, we feel like a 30-year-old startup sometimes, is because we're still early into the process to build the brand recognition, grow the following outside of that we've got interconnected with a series of the tenured like executives and operational leaders that have been here. But there's so many kind of unique things about, this Midwestern headquartered company that focuses on people first and then provides this highly complex value solution to our clients. And it's why people stick around. To some of your observations from earlier, Max, that people stay here because they love it, because there's a lot of interesting things about it. And it's very similar for our clients. So the average client tenure is over 7 years. Like in this space, that's a little bit unheard of. So when people realize who we are, what we do, how it works, and buy into it, you get these deep bonds and interconnected relationships and partnerships that are very rewarding for people, for the clients, for the customers to grow revenues, and just like the magic starts to happen. And telling people that story, like that's been our challenge. Once they're in it, once they see it, it becomes so obvious, and they have this eyes wide open moment. But unfortunately, lots of times it feels like we sit in sort of a little pocket where we're the best kept secret. And I'd like for that to change. And the team's doing a lot of external activity and content creation as we're learning how to grow and flex that muscle, because we haven't had to prior, to start to share that story. And I think the more that we can, the more successful we get at that, it's going to mean good things for the firm. And then, what we like is that creates opportunity for our people to maintain and grow their share.
Sure. I mean, from the outside looking in, you think a company like yourself, the biggest focus is probably on retention, keeping ongoing customers ongoing, right? Continuing to scale and grow with them. So it's funny to hear, that's not necessarily, it's part of our focus, but our focus is just, we need to get our name out there more, right? We need to continue to grow and tell our story online versus, scaling our own internal teams to meet the demand of the market, right? So I'm sure there's obviously a lot of that conversation continuously ongoing, but to hear you say, maybe the focus is on the brand, it is on social, it is getting our name out there. It sounds like you guys are in a really good place just from the outside looking in.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. So we're now years into the rebranding journey, and as recently as 2 weeks ago, a long-term client partner of ours, just out of reflex, like it called us West in a mixed setting, and I was like, no, that we're not West. Salelytics, that's who we are. And there's so much affiliation for the people and the model that we have. It's just been kind of conditioned into that's who we are. And what we're hoping to get is like out in the marketplace, you tell your friends, you tell them in Salelytics, this is where they can find us, and this is who we are, what we do. So that's been interesting, right? It's an interesting journey to take a 30-year-old company and call it something new, make sure we stay claim to the things that we've done that grew us to this point and kept us around and relevant this long, but, have kind of a new identity out in the world that people understand and really.
Mm-hmm. Well, you guys are developing custom teams, in some cases technology for yourself and for your teams to use to be able to, to hit their metrics. And you guys definitely provide an essential service. And, as we wrap things up here, is there anything else that, you or Ashley would like to share that you think our listeners need to know about you or Salelytics that we haven't covered yet? And the floor is kind of open here. I'd love to make sure you guys have the floor to provide that.
Yeah, I'll give my plug first. So one thing that I've always found that's helpful kind of with where we sit in this space. So some people will broadly categorize us like in the BPO region. So when you're thinking about large global providers like Teleperformance or Lorica or T-Tech, we're certainly not that. But the niche that we serve is relatively narrowly focused in revenue generating operations for our clients. And how I think we differentiate from those is they obviously have a lot of other offerings that are going on besides that, seemingly boutique version of the service offerings. Everybody from our president on down is kind of all hands on deck to ensure that the processes, the talent, the technology that we deploy doesn't get lost in kind of a larger solution set orientation. We definitely felt a little bit of that when we were tucked under the multi-billion-dollar West brand. So breaking out, we're still capable to provide teams at scale just as well as the global players can. And we're doing it kind of with a very white glove approach for many of our client partners that, has been received very well. You're definitely going to get care and TLC from the executives all the way down to the front line when you become partnered with us.
About you, Ashley?
I echo that. I can't top it, I don't think. I think just getting involved in our social presence and seeing what we have to offer. I like to sum it up as we're not a call center, or we're not your typical what you think a call center would be. This is truly dedicated inside sales service and support for your business. Whether you have a current team in place or not, we would love to have that conversation to see if there's a fit for our service.
So that's a perfect segue into, where can people find you, right? You mentioned a podcast, the LinkedIn, your YouTube page. We can drop links to, all of that. But what about, events, conferences, trade shows? Where can people find you in addition to the online resources?
Yeah, so Salelytics.com, check it out. We're proud of the website. And there's a schedule a consultation right from there. People want to get to us. A lot of the great content of what's going on, kind of day in the life of the firm for our team members and for our associates, I think is best viewed on the LinkedIn page. Ashley and the team have done a tremendous job. Because we cover such a broad range of shows, we're sort of all over the place. We just went through a circuit supporting some of our consumer packaged goods work. The team was out in California at Expo West just last week in Anaheim. A few months from now, we'll be at Customer Contact Week in Las Vegas. So you could find us at that show with some of our solution providers. And then there's a patient-centric summit that we're hosting ourselves in May in Minneapolis. So that is invite only, but if anybody sees this and they're interested and want to hear more about it, they're welcome to reach out. We'd be happy to talk.
Love it. Yeah, hopefully this can make in front of those right decision makers or the people who may be attending that you guys might be in conversations with. So when they're listening, make sure to reach out. We'll make sure to include links to a few of those conferences you guys are going to be at. And you guys mentioned there's a podcast, right? You're on the Business Ninjas podcast. Feel free to plug your own podcast as well.
Yep, Sales Chat is the brand. So we're only getting started. But we started as an audio podcast. We did a handful of shows in the last year. We started to migrate it into video. So if you're following the LinkedIn page, you'll start to see some of those clips come through. And we just scheduled another one last week. So we're going to be more diligent about it. I don't know that we're to your level quite yet, Max, but goals, right? Everybody's got to have something to shoot for.
Yep, for sure. Well, I feel like I've definitely learned a lot about Salelytics, the brand, the history, the background. So it's definitely been helpful and also helpful to understand where you guys are going and what and where people can find you. 'Cause it sounds like there's a lot of great things going on there. I mean, for you two to be there for 20 years combined, it just goes to show that that's a really great organization to work for. I appreciate you both being here. Thank you so much for the time and for the conversation as well. And thanks. That wraps up another episode of the Business Ninja podcast. So Ashley and AJ, enjoy the rest of your day. And thanks everyone for listening.
Good. Thanks, Max.